Hello, viewers. In today's session, we are going to discuss another important and conceptual problem from a domain of functions, right? So here we have this problem in which we have to find the domain of this function f of x, which is equal to log of greatest integer of x, right? So here we are using the notation that is log for the natural log, right? So here the function log of greatest integer of x can also be written as ln greatest integer of x, right? So let us start. So now to get the domain of this function, here we'll make use of the definition of greatest integer function, right? And we'll also draw some important conclusion to arrive at the domain of this function. So let us take these important points one by one. So the first important point is that the greatest integer of x should not be equal to 0, right? So greatest integer of x should not be equal to 0 because when greatest integer of x is equal to 0, then we have log of 0, and log of 0 is it tends to a minus infinity, right? So here we have to avoid all those values of x which makes greatest integer of x is equal to 0. Now to understand this point, what we will do, let us draw the real number line, and here we have 0 and here we have 1, right? So whenever we have x lying between 0 and 1, including 0, then for all values of x which lies in this interval, that is 0 to 1, the value of greatest integer of x is equal to 0, right? For example, if we have, say, x is equal to 0 0.5, then 0 0.5 lies between 0 and 1, and the greatest integer of 0 0.5 is equal to 0, right? So here the first important point is that the greatest integer of x should not be equal to 0, or in other words, x is greater than or equal to 0 and less than 1. So we should not have any value of x which lies in this interval. So now the second important point is that here we have greatest integer of x, right? And this x must be greater than 0. Or in other words, we can say that x should be a positive real number, right? So we can easily discard all the negative numbers, because the greatest integer of the negative numbers will give us a negative number, right? Now let us take some examples here. Suppose we have, say, x is equal to say minus 1, right? Then we have log of greatest integer of minus 1, and the greatest integer of minus 1 is minus 1, and here we have the logarithm of a negative number which does not belong to the set of real numbers, right? So here we have to avoid all the negative values of x, so it implies that x should be greater than 0, right? And we have already said that x should not be equal to 0, right? So now using these two important points, we can now easily arrive at the domain of the natural log of greatest integer of x, right? So in the first case, we have said that this x should not belong to this interval, that is 0 to 1, right? So we have to discard this interval, that is from 0 to 1, and here 0 is also we can eliminate x is equal to 0 also, right? Okay, and x is equal to 1 may be taken because log of greatest integer of 1 is equal to log of uh, greatest integer of 1 is 1, so log of 1 is 0, and 0 belongs to the set of real numbers, right? So we can include x is equal to 1, right? And we have said in the second point that x should be greater than 0. It means x cannot be a negative number. So we can discard this interval also, that is from minus infinity to 0, right? And so we are left with only this interval, that is from 1 to infinity. 1 is included here, right? So the domain of this function is given by this interval, that is from 1 to infinity, where 1 is also included because log of greatest integer of 1 is defined. So the domain of f of x is given by this interval 1 to infinity, where 1 is included, right? So this is how by making these arguments and these discussions we can arrive at the domain of given functions.